Your wife is asking too many questions. Be careful. That was the text that shattered my world. I wasn't supposed to see it. Jake had left his phone on the nightstand while he showered, and I wasn't even trying to snoop. But when the screen lit up with Liam's name, his best friend, his so-called brother, I couldn't look away. Be careful? Be careful of what? My pulse pounded as I reread the message. My hands shook as I clutched the phone, my breath coming in short, shallow gasps. This wasn't just some casual text between friends. This was a warning, a secret message meant to keep me in the dark. It all made sense now, the late nights, the unexplained expenses, the way Jake's phone was always glued to his hand. And Liam. Liam had always been there, smoothing over Jake's lies, covering for him, protecting him. My mind raced back to all the moments I had ignored, all the times I'd given Jake the benefit of the doubt. Like the time he came home at 2 a.m., reeking of cologne that wasn't his. And Liam was the one who swore they had just been grabbing drinks. Or when I found a hotel charge on our joint account, and Jake had laughed it off, saying Liam had used his card by mistake, or the way Liam had always been quick to shut me down whenever I questioned Jake's behavior. Now I knew why. Liam wasn't just covering for him. He was helping him. I stared at the phone, my vision blurring with rage. I could feel my pulse in my fingertips and my temples, pounding in my skull. For months I had doubted myself. I had told myself I was paranoid, jealous, reading into things too much. But this text? This was proof. I carefully placed the phone back on the nightstand, climbed into bed, and turned my back to Jake. My mind was racing, my chest tight with anger. If they thought I was asking too many questions now, they had no idea what was coming next. Your wife is asking too many questions. Be careful. Liam's message played over and over in my head. That single text had confirmed everything. I wasn't imagining things. I wasn't paranoid. Jake was hiding something. And Liam, he was helping him. But I wasn't about to sit back and wait for the truth to reveal itself. If they thought I was going to back off, they had no idea who they were dealing with. The next morning, I kept up the act. I smiled as Jake kissed me goodbye. I played the role of the trusting wife, nodding along as he told me about his long day at work ahead. But this time, I wasn't going to just sit at home wondering what he was up to. I was going to find out for myself. I started small. That afternoon, while Jake was still at work, I went through his closet, his drawers, his office space. I didn't expect to find anything. Not yet. Jake was too careful. But then, in the pocket of one of his jackets, I found something. A receipt from a hotel bar across town. The date was from 2 nights ago, the same night he had told me he was stuck working late at the office. I swallowed the lump forming in my throat. He had been lying to my face. I knew it. But now, I had proof. I snapped a photo of the receipt and put it back exactly as I had found it. If Jake was cheating, he was meticulous. If I was going to catch him, I had to be smarter. That evening, I casually asked, "What time do you think you'll be home tonight?" Jake barely looked up from his phone. "Late? Might grab a drink with Liam afterward." I forced a smile. Of course. Liam, his built-in alibi. "Sounds fun," I said. "Tell him I say hi." I waited until he left. Then I grabbed my keys and followed him. I didn't tailgate, didn't make it obvious. I knew his usual route to work, but tonight, he wasn't heading in that direction. He was going somewhere else. My stomach twisted as I watched him pull into the parking lot of the same hotel from the receipt. I parked across the street, heart pounding, watching as Jake stepped out of his car. He checked his phone, glanced around like he was making sure no one was watching, then walked toward the entrance. He was meeting someone, and I was going to find out who. I waited for a few minutes before following him inside. I kept my head down, my hood up, moving carefully through the dimly lit bar. I didn't need to get too close. I just needed a good vantage point. And then I saw him. Jake was in a booth near the back, leaning forward, talking in hushed tones, and sitting across from him, Liam. I clenched my fists. Of course it was him. They weren't drinking, weren't laughing. This wasn't just two best friends having a casual night out. This was serious. I grabbed a menu and slid into a booth nearby, angling myself so I could see them without drawing attention. I pulled out my phone, pretending to scroll, and started recording. Their conversation was muffled, but I caught snippets of it. Can't keep doing this. She's starting to suspect. Need to cover our tracks better. My heart slammed against my ribs. They were talking about me. I leaned in, holding my breath. What the hell were they hiding? Just as I was about to move closer, something happened that sent a chill down my spine. Jake reached into his jacket and pulled out an envelope. He slid it across the table. Liam took it, glancing inside quickly before shoving it into his own pocket. Cash. A lot of it. I nearly gasped out loud. Jake was paying Liam for something. For covering for him? For keeping someone quiet? Every nerve in my body was screaming. This wasn't just cheating. This was something bigger. He gripped my phone tighter, my mind racing. Who else was involved? What were they hiding? And why the hell was Jake paying Liam to help him? I had come here expecting to catch my husband having an affair. But now? Now I was uncovering a conspiracy, and I wasn't stopping until I knew everything. Your wife is asking too many questions. Be careful. That text had been my wake-up call. But what I found next? It changed everything. I had expected to catch my husband cheating. I had braced myself for the pain, the heartbreak, the betrayal. But as I sat in my car outside that hotel, watching Jake and Liam whispering in a dimly lit booth, my stomach twisted in ways I never imagined. This wasn't just an affair. This was a conspiracy. I spent the next few nights playing the perfect wife, smiling, laughing at his jokes, pretending I didn't notice how he flinched whenever his phone buzzed. I needed more. And I knew exactly where to look. Jake was paranoid about his phone, but his laptop, that was his weak spot. Late one night, after he had fallen asleep, I crept downstairs. His laptop sat on his desk, screen dark. I pressed the power button, heart pounding, password screen. I took a deep breath and typed in his usual password. Access granted. My hands trembled as I opened his email, scanning subject lines. Most of it was normal, until I found it. A thread labeled Project Omega. I clicked, and what I saw made my blood turn to ice. Jake wasn't just cheating, he was paying someone off. The email thread was between him, Liam, and Rachel, his ex-girlfriend. I read, my hands shaking. Jake, she can't find out. We have worked too hard for this. Rachel, I got the money. I'll stay quiet like we agreed. But don't contact me again. I'm done with this mess. Liam, good. Now we just need to make sure she stays distracted. Leave that part to me. I stared at the screen, my pulse hammering in my ears. What the hell was this? Jake and Liam weren't just covering up an affair. They were paying Rachel to keep quiet. I scrolled further, searching for context, and then I saw the transfer details. $50,000. Jake had wired $50,000 to Rachel just 2 weeks ago. I clenched my jaw. Why? What was she threatening to expose? I kept scrolling, desperate for answers, and then, buried in an older email from Liam to Jake, I found it. Liam, you owe me for this. I've covered for you for years, and we both know it's not just Rachel you should be worried about. Years? Not just Rachel? I scrolled further, my fingers trembling. Another message. Jake, I told you, I got this under control. Stop making this about you. Liam, about me? Are you serious? After everything I've done for you? After everything we've been through? I read those words over and over, my breath catching in my throat. Everything we've been through. This wasn't just about Jake cheating on me with Rachel. Liam was involved, and not just as a cover-up. Liam and Jake had been more than just best friends. I stared at the screen, nausea rising in my stomach. They had been together. For how long? Since when? Had I ever even been the real love in Jake's life? The betrayal hit me like a freight train. My husband had spent years making me feel like the crazy one, lying to my face, gaslighting me into believing I was paranoid. And all this time, he had been hiding a secret affair with his own best friend. I closed the laptop and sat in the dark, gripping the armrests of the chair. My body felt numb, my mind racing. What do you do when the two people you trusted most in the world betray you in the worst way possible? I could have confronted him right then. I could have screamed, cried, demanded the truth, but I wouldn't give him that satisfaction. Number I was going to ruin him. And Liam. They had spent years lying to me, making a fool of me. Now? It was my turn to play the game. I wiped my face, took a deep breath, and started planning. First, I gathered every shred of evidence. I copied all the emails onto a flash drive. I took screenshots of bank transfers, messages, hotel bookings. I compiled every photo, every receipt, every single thing that proved what they had been doing. I wasn't just exposing an affair, I was exposing a double life. Then I set the trap. Jake's birthday was coming up in 3 weeks. He had planned a big party, a gathering with family, friends, work colleagues, and of course, Liam. I decided that would be the perfect stage. I sent out invites making sure everyone important in his life would be there. His boss, his coworkers, his parents. And most importantly, Liam's girlfriend. Yes, Liam had a girlfriend. A woman who had no idea what he had been doing behind her back. I smiled to myself. They thought I was just a clueless wife. They had no idea that their entire world was about to collapse. I stood in front of the mirror staring at my own reflection. My hands were steady, my breathing controlled. But inside, I was on fire. I had spent weeks pretending, smiling, kissing my husband goodnight, all while knowing the truth. Tonight, it ends. Jake's birthday party was in full swing. The house was filled with laughter, clinking glasses, and conversations that blurred together. The man of the hour stood at the center of it all, grinning like a king in his castle. Oblivious. Liam was there too, standing close, whispering things that made Jake chuckle. The sight of them together made my stomach churn. They thought they had me fooled. They thought their secrets were safe. But tonight, in front of everyone who mattered to them, I was going to rip their world apart. I made my way to the front of the room, tapping my glass lightly. The chatter died down as his eyes turned toward me. Jake smiled, expecting the usual doting wife speech. I returned his smile, savoring this final moment before everything shattered. First of all, thank you all for coming to celebrate Jake. I began, keeping my voice warm. My amazing, hard-working, loyal husband. Jake's smile flickered just for a second. Liam shifted uncomfortably. I turned my attention to the guests. Marriage is built on trust, honesty, and faithfulness. And lucky for me, I have a husband who exemplifies all of those qualities. Jake stiffened. Liam looked like he wanted to disappear. I pressed a button on my phone. The speakers crackled to life. She can't find out. We've worked too hard for this. Jake froze. I already paid her off. She won't say anything. Liam went pale. Keep your mouth shut, Liam. We're too deep in this. Gasps erupted through the crowd. Someone muttered, "What the hell?" Jake lunged toward me, but I was faster. "Oh, we're just getting started," I said sweetly. I lifted the remote again, and the projector flickered on behind me. And there, in crystal clear detail, were screenshots of Jake's emails, bank transfers, and, most damning of all, messages between him and Liam. The silence in the room was deafening. Jake's boss looked at the screen, his face a mixture of shock and disgust. His mother covered her mouth, whispering, "Oh my God!" Liam's girlfriend, who had been just as clueless as I once was staring at the messages, shaking her head in disbelief. And then, before anyone else could react, Liam snapped. "This is insane!" he shouted, his voice breaking. "You're twisting things, making it sound worse than it is." "Oh?" I tilted my head, feigning curiosity. "So you weren't helping my husband cheat? You weren't covering his lies, setting up alibis, meeting up in hotels?" Liam's girlfriend gasped. "Hotels? What is she talking about?" Jake finally found his voice. "Listen, I can explain." I laughed. "Oh, please do, Jake. Because I'm dying to hear what excuse you have for this." I tapped my phone again. A new voice played. Liam's. "You owe me for this. I've covered for you for years. And we both know it's not just Rachel you should be worried about." The color drained from Liam's face. Jake looked like he had been punched in the gut. Liam's girlfriend took a step back. "What is that supposed to mean?" she demanded, her voice shaking. I turned to her, my voice dripping with sympathy. "Oh, sweetheart, you don't know?" I gestured toward the screen, where the final piece of evidence appeared. Messages between Jake and Liam. Ones that left no room for misinterpretation. Jake hadn't just been cheating with Rachel. He had been sleeping with Liam. The room exploded. Liam's girlfriend slapped him across the face. Jake's boss stormed toward him, his expression furious. "So this is what you've been doing on company trips?" he snapped. "Lying, embezzling, sleeping around? Wait, what?" I blinked innocently. "Oh, did I forget to mention? Jake's not just a cheating husband, he's also been stealing from his company." The gas turned into outrage. Jake turned to me, his face contorted with fury. "You think you can do this to me?" he hissed. I smiled. "Oh, honey, I already did." Liam stormed out first, humiliated beyond repair. His girlfriend followed, shouting, "I hope you rot, you liar," as she slammed the door behind her. Jake tried to control the damage, pleading with his boss, his family, his friends, but no one was listening. His boss simply shook his head. "Consider yourself fired," he said coldly before walking away. Jake's parents refused to look at him. His friends whispered, shaking their heads. One by one, they all left, leaving him standing alone in the wreckage of his own making. I picked up my champagne glass, swirling the liquid inside. "You know," I said, my voice calm, "you should have been more careful." Jake turned to me, his expression unreadable. "You'll regret this." I smiled. "No, Jake. You will." I took a slow sip of my drink, watching as the last shred of his life crumbled before his eyes. I walked out of that house, leaving behind the wreckage of Jake's shattered life. But the destruction didn't stop that night. It only began. Jake lost his job the very next day. His boss made sure of it. The company couldn't afford a scandal, and with the evidence I had exposed, there was no way they were keeping him on the payroll. The money, the power, the status he had clung to for so long, gone. Liam, humiliated beyond repair, moved out of town within a week. His girlfriend had publicly exposed him for his betrayal, and he had burned every bridge possible. The last I heard, he was unemployed, bouncing between temporary gigs, barely scraping by. And Jake? He tried to salvage what was left of his life, but it didn't take long for the world to turn against him. His parents cut him off financially, disgusted by what he had done. His so-called friends disappeared, unwilling to associate with someone who had lied, cheated, and stolen. No one wanted to be around a man whose entire life had been built on deception. And me? I thrived. I sold our house and took my share of the money. Unlike Jake, I had played my cards right. I had secured everything I needed before exposing him, ensuring that when the dust settled, I walked away with financial freedom. With my fresh start, I moved to a new city, started a new career, and finally lived for myself. No more lies, no more manipulation, just peace. And one night, as I sat on my balcony, sipping wine and watching the city lights, and my phone buzzed. A number I hadn't seen in months. Jake. I stared at the screen for a moment, then smirked. I let it ring. I had already won. Jake thought he was untouchable. He thought he could lie, cheat, and manipulate his way through life without consequences. But the truth always comes out. No matter how careful he had been, no matter how many people he had deceived, his secrets finally destroyed him. And me? I learned that sometimes the best revenge isn't destruction. It's walking away with your dignity, your strength, and your freedom. I didn't just leave Jake. I left behind the person I used to be, the woman who doubted herself, who second-guessed every instinct. And in her place, a woman who would never let anyone play her for a fool again.